This is the third video, and what I've got here in front of me is a whole lot of Schweebs, which I don't really need to look at. So if you look at all that here, I'm going to, once again, I can at this point, just like in AutoCAD, I can basically erase everything because what's on the plane is just a copy of a block. So I'm going to go right click and hit erase here, and I can now come back in and just bring in a component and start looking at my editing. Now what I'm going to do here is look at and break down the component as you might in a breakaway or in a drawing, in a mechanical drawing. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to set my layer to temp, I'm going to go to window components, that one comes up. I'm going to look at all my in models, and I've got a lot, but the one I'm going to start is the biggest one, which is the wheel assembly full. Going to bring that in here. You see how it's grabbing to some particular axis. Depending on what I laid when I defined it, it would grab to, you know, a side. I might want to have that one grab to a vertical face if you think about it. So I can go into here, I've got that, and now I can take that and copy it. This would be how you might learn to, and I can take that now and explode it. Right click, explode, and I have the other sub pieces, you see that, and now I can take one of those pieces and move it out. Get a control here, make a copy of that, and that one I can now take and explode. And that one now is one piece, two pieces, and they're the same piece, and they are done by, if you remember, a flip. So I can take that one and I can copy it out, hitting a control here. And then that one there, if you remember, was comprised of, I can take that one and explode it out. And that one was comprised of two different wheels. So I'm going to take here and hit the control key, copy that. And if you remember what was down below it, that one had two pieces, and the other piece here I can go ahead and do the same. Why I'm doing that in a second is going to be a little bit easier perhaps to figure out what my layering is if I do these individually, and you'll fix them all back here, because when I did the layering here, I'm going to push this off to the side. When I did the layering, and in SketchUp it's a little bit harder sometimes because you're really not thinking so much layering, you're thinking a lot layering slash components. So I'm going to take this one here as well. As I exploded it, I'm going to take that piece there and move it off to the other side. The control. If you notice, it's going to tend to grab that axis if you get close to your major three axes. And changing your axes is and it's skill that's worth learning earlier in SketchUp than it is in AutoCAD. But you can actually go ahead and change things. So if you remember, these now, depending as I exploded them, I'm not sure what layer they're on, but if I go inside of this, I remember that there, and you notice how it's grabbing everything. That there, if I hit right click, entity info, that was on joint axes. So that one is what I don't want that on joint axes. I want that on, go here, or in fact here. I would like that to be not on joint axes, I'd like that to be on wheels. Now we'll see how it changes it anywhere else, and I can go back to here, double click inside, grab that, right click, entity info, it's on wheels. So now we're looking a little bit better, and then you have to go all the way up through now. So I'm going to go all the way up through here and make sure that I get everything on a layer that's not joint axes, so when I later on do this, things don't evaporate. So I'm going to go ahead and wheel out here, see if I can do that. Wheel out. I'll go ahead and hit a zoom extents, and let's see what happens now when we hit joint axes. Boy, that was all I needed to do. Right, I had made some issue there. So all these things are on temp, so all of a sudden going in and turning off the joint axes, I've got everything cleaned up by going through this process. And I have right here some sort of map, if you would, and you can label this. For instance, you can now in here in this program, you can go ahead and add another layer and call it text underscore labels. And go ahead and use this pretty nice tool. Null, and you see it's naming the assembly. So I'm going to see if I can get that to work. Wheel assembly full. And then I go to here. We're going to go ahead and label this one. Wheel assembly double. That's a pretty nice trick there. So I've never seen that before, but it's pretty nice. Wheel assembly, and then go over here. Put this one out to the side. You notice I'm hesitating until it grabs it. It's not grabbing it yet. Zooming in here. Wheel small. I think should be the wheel large. I grabbed the wrong one. Let's go ahead and just double check what this one is. That was a group. Nice. Alright, so we had groups, so those were not actually blocks or components. We have our components nested down. So wheel large, wheel assembly, and then underneath we had wheel small, I think. Wheel large and wheel small. So get the general sense here. And I'm going to now go ahead and save this one, wheel assembly full. Giving you a general idea then as we go through and look at that with and without the axes. You see that box off on the left turning on and off? That's just going to give me some sort of general sense of how to hold to axes or the general coordinates x, y, and z, which are world coordinates in this case. But we have something now that later on, and what we'll see we'll be doing, we'll be attaching hinges to these. And within sketchy physics, unfortunately, hinges and joints cannot be kind of worked with in the block mode. You got to do it with individual things, and that's getting much better now that you can kind of attach things up and copy the joints, but up to now it's been an issue, so I'm anticipating it still is. So we're going to have to deal, in the end, we'll have to go ahead and put 9 different 9 different hinges or motors or servos into this one per each. And so we'll be dealing with that in the next video before we go on to the rest of the fun part of the Schweeb, and which is the Wisconsinized, Badgerized, MSTCized carriage, which is going to hang off of this thing, at least as we go with a concept of just a pretty simple idea that looks like a heck of a lot of fun. Thanks for listening. We'll make this a short one. And we're going to save this one out as Schweeb 45.